focus their attention on critical race theory. And I'm wondering if you have anything to say to the community regarding CRT.
The same thing we've always said about CRT. I think it's a manufactured crisis. Schools don't teach, elementary, middle, high schools don't teach critical race theory. We struggle to even get schools to celebrate basic Black History Month, Hispanic History Month. So this whole movement to make Americans believe that they're at risk of critical race theory is manufactured. And I think that parents should get more involved in actually learning about what is taught in schools and about what is important. What do they want to be taught in schools? Because I do think that we want the truth to be taught and American history to be taught in its totality, world history to be taught in its totality. And we shouldn't allow something like CRT to be used as a code word to teach false information or to not teach our history in its fullness.
I'd like to add something to that because it's a political question about candidates, but it's posed to someone who's in not a political job. She's not elected, she's not a politician, but often gets sort of positioned that way. Deena and I work and play and choose to be in the political arena. So I think there will be a variety of candidates ultimately who run for the Board of Education. The filing period closed after a couple of days. It will reopen. So I don't think we've seen what's going to be on the whole plate of who will run for the Board of Ed. I would say that I think we need really high quality, experienced, community-oriented people to run for the Board of Ed, to understand what it means to provide good governance, to understand what is our job and what isn't our job. And so I would say, I think the superintendent has done an extraordinary job of staying focused on kids and her job while often being sort of attempted to be pulled into these political conversations and battles. She's adept, she's brilliant, she's good at responding, and yet it's not her calling to be a politician, right? What's going to be on the whole plate of who will run for the Board of Ed? I would say that I think we need really high quality, experienced, community-oriented people to run for the Board of Ed, to understand what it means to provide good governance, to understand what is our job and what isn't our job. And so I would say, I think the superintendent has done an extraordinary job of staying focused on kids and her job while often being sort of attempted to be pulled into these political conversations and battles. She's adept, she's brilliant, she's good at responding, and yet it's not her calling to be a politician, right? She's a superintendent who's hired by an elected board. So I too would say that some of the political rhetoric in our community, that some of those candidates, obviously I'm not a part of that slate of candidates, is often, I think, detrimental to our children's futures. I disagree sometimes substantively and then often tactically. And so I think there are tactics at play that are not healthy. And again, what I have witnessed and seen, though, daily is broad support and positive action on the parts of students, parents, teachers, principals, pastors, business people, philanthropists who volunteer in schools, who build partnerships, who support our district leadership, and who have across superintendents. And I see that activity, but often what we do is to highlight sort of a negative voice or a particular tactic. So I do hope as we move forward as a community in this, we will resist that. And that we will take seriously many of the things that we've learned from Dr. Contreras. She's a teacher at heart, in my opinion. I learn something every day that I work with her. Reminds me in some cases of my 12th grade English teacher, Miss Coffin, who was the hardest teacher I had, and I loved to hate her my senior year. And yet, at the age of 55, I use things every day that I learned from Ms. Coffin. I have loved every day of working with Sharon outside of the Board of Ed and as a Board of Ed member. And I want to say publicly how grateful all of those folks are for your leadership and for what you have poured into this community and will continue to pour into kids as you move forward. Thank you.
And I'd like to say in closing that as the media is here and you have an enormous responsibility as you are translating and communicating information out to our broader community, that our core values include diversity and equity. We have a school district that is largely of color, poor, and the lowest performing students in this district. And there's a political agenda being driven by a demographic that has not stood up for or addressed the experiences those students are having. We created the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion shortly after I came on the board in 2004. And since then, we have seen a strong coalition, a strong multiracial coalition of people who are working together with a shared understanding of parts of our history that are hurtful and painful, but nonetheless accurate. And people who have a shared language and have a shared understanding can work together effectively to solve some of the complex problems that we have. So I encourage and support any efforts to be very responsible in the way that information is shared and broadcast out to our community, because we need to be united. We do not need the kind of divisiveness. It would be great if there was an invitation to have a discussion about something that people are attempting to ban, which is just absurd. That we are attempting to, eliminate something we have never, ever, ever discussed. And so I hope that we will all bring our best selves to this problem, because it can set us back. And who is going to be harmed are our children and ultimately our community.
I lied, we do have one more, and that's it, I promise.
I wanted to ask of the group that you're looking to lead now. One, I'm curious if you might say some examples, if there are any, of how they have helped you as a superintendent here. And also, when you go with them, what do you expect or hope to do? What kind of mark do you look to put on that organization?
So I am a new member of the organization. I think the Guilford County has been a member for a year. And what is most beneficial is the collaboration and the presentation of new practices from around the state, from other districts, and from across the nation. Because I have experiences from different states, and I also am a participant in many different networks from across the country, I think I can introduce some of that to my colleagues, in addition to what they have already shared with me to help me be a better superintendent. So the point again, the mission of the organization, the vision, is to be innovative so that we can improve outcomes for students and end racial inequity in schools. And that's something that each of us works on individually in our home districts, but together we are far smarter and much stronger.
Thank you so much.
This ends our press briefing. Again, thank you